And good morning. It is a Friday morning, the 9th day of December, 2016. You're tuned to 1320 AM, WKRK, 105.5 FM, and country.am and cable TV channel 25. I think I got all of them covered. And this morning, I think the sheriff and I we're going to sit back and let Robin Caldwell do all the talking today because we know she wants the whole 30 minutes.
Right.
Not at all.
We do have a special guest this morning, Robin. We talk about her all the time.
All the time. Just about every week we talk about her.
And so we finally decided to
none of it's true.
to trick her into coming and being with us one day.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for being here, and tell everybody what your job is.
I am the emergency management coordinator for Cherokee County, and basically I just sit in the background and help coordinate all of our local heroes when we have something going on.
And how long have you been doing this now?
For almost 20 years.
20 years?
Thanks for bringing that
She's
to everybody's
older than we
attention.
are, Tim.
She and I went to school together, and that makes me sound really old now.
We are.
Yeah, wow.
Robin is the unsung hero of all the emergency coordination that goes on in Cherokee County, and I get to ask a lot of questions about the things that we do and what we do in law enforcement, and especially in emergency situations and those type of things. And I always have to push it back to Robin because Robin is the hub that keeps all the spokes together. That keeps everything rolling in Cherokee County, and so she does a great job, and she does a great service for Cherokee County. So we wanted her to come on this morning, and we're going to talk about a few things here in a little bit. But we just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas also coming up, and hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving, and just this is my favorite time of year. I love it when it starts getting cold, and boy, did it get cold today.
You must really love it today.
But winter has been historically my favorite time of year, and I like Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, and all those kind of things. Of course, with Christmas coming up, there's also safety things involved in that. We need to make sure that that we're safe on your shopping on the internet and not giving all that information out to websites that shouldn't have it, and especially like overseas websites and things of that nature. Be careful with that. And also be careful with your packaging and being shipped to your house and leaving things at your mailbox and on the street corners and stuff, because people will come by and pick it up and steal it. So just be vigilant about that. If you know a package is coming, be watching for it and try to get in the house as quick as you can.
A lot of that happening locally, theft from people's homes.
We generally don't have a whole lot of it, but we do. Last year we had a little bit. It happens more around in the towns than it does in the country. Most of your rural route carriers and your FedEx and UPS and all those kind of things won't leave packages out on the side of the road or on top of your mailbox. They usually take them to your front door and leave them at your door. So they are an occasion things stolen out in the county, but a lot of times things are picked up in the towns where it's visible from the highway that people can just swoop in real quick and pick it up. So.
And a lot of people nowadays have security cameras over all their doors too, so they're watching to see who is at their door.
One thing about security cameras I do want to say, we was mentioning this at the sheriff's office yesterday. Used to, when I started, and I've been in law enforcement 20 years, so a little over 20.
Isn't he?
Yeah, I'm old. But used to, when you were away from a bank or anything like that, you really wasn't concerned about anything being recorded, unless somebody had a digital recorder in their pocket or a tape recorder at the time. It wasn't even digital. Don't say anything, Tim. but it was a tape recorder. And that was one time you really had to worry about anything being recorded. But now, anywhere you're at, it could be out in the country, it could be in the woods, it could be on the trail on top of a mountain somewhere, and you're always a possibility of wherever you're at being recorded or being videotaped. So that's just an encouragement for those out there that's doing nefarious acts to try to behave, because you never know when you're being recorded.
That's true. And that those recordings can be used in the court of law.
Right, they certainly can. I always said about cameras with law enforcement, we are in process now trying to get either some body cameras or some in-car cameras for our deputies. And there's been a little bit of controversy around the state about that, and most of the controversy has been about storage issues and data issues and all those kind of things. But my thought process on that is, when I was a patrol officer, I had a camera in my car, and I loved it. I loved having a camera. People make accusations towards you and those type of things. It covers you, and it shows what really happened there. And I've always said that cameras and surveillance equipment stuff makes good officers better and it weeds out the ones that shouldn't be there. So I've always been a proponent of that and thought it was a good idea. I'm not a fan of the body cameras. Too jerky, too movie. You really can't see what's going on. You only get one point of view perspective, kind of what's directly in front of the person with about 6 or 8 feet. And I'm more of a fan of car cameras where you can kind of get an entire wide view of what's going on in front of you. So that's kind of what I'd like to do, but we'll see what the budget allows and what we can get. But
And there are some problems that do arise from body cameras, especially if that just a short clip is posted like on a social media site, and then everybody in the world becomes on the jury and tries to say what happened according to that just short clip.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, when you talk about social media, we talk about social media a lot, but you can absolutely devastate someone's life by social media. And there's the majority of the people, I would say, the majority of the people out there that post things on social media about events and about things like that that's happening and things that's going on, really don't know what they're talking about when they're posting things. And so one of the bad things about it, and actually my wife and I was having this discussion last night. She's the director of DSS, and we were having that discussion, especially with personnel issues and things, that when you have personnel issues or ex-employees, they can kind of get out and say whatever they want to and post things and talk about you and say all these bad things. But since their information is protected by law, we can't get out and tell what really happened. We can't say what really happened, so we're kind of left out there sitting ducks, because of personnel restrictions and things of that nature. So you can absolutely devastate someone's life with social media, and I just encourage people to be careful about what you post and what you say on there.
It can be a very useful tool for a lot of people, but some people don't use it.
And one of the useful tools it can be is getting information out.
That's it. Yes, and we want to talk about that today. And Gatlinburg reopened for business today. Highway 441 is back open from Cherokee to Gatlinburg, and that's one of the things that people, Gatlinburg officials say that to help out is just to come visit there and just spend money. There's some sirens on the outside. Something important is going on. But one of the things that was an issue, and a lot of the media outlets focused on this, was communication failures. During that evacuation. It happened extremely quickly. And I know it's one of those things that we never want to point fingers of blame toward any official that's trying to do their job and help out, but we want to take a time to learn from things that can happen. And Robin is here with Cherokee County Emergency Management. And
I think one of the things that happened on the Gatlinburg fire, and Robin can fill us in if she knows a little bit more about it, but I think one of the things that they were really hard on the government in Tennessee about, and the Gatlinburg officials and things, was they had a press conference there on Monday, and on the Monday of the fire, and they asked about evacuations and things of that nature, and told them that they had time to evacuate, that they weren't doing evacuations. But then later on that night, the winds got up to almost 90 miles an hour. And that was something that was not anticipated. They did anticipate winds, but not to that magnitude. And I think at the time of the press conference, the fire was about 8 miles away from Gatlinburg. And when the winds kicked up at 90 miles an hour, I think if I remember correctly, I think the media report stated that it moved from that 8 mile distance to Gatlinburg in approximately 15 to 20 minutes.
Wow.
And so that is a fast moving fire that you really can't do a whole lot about.
And to put it in a local perspective, if say Andrews was experiencing a fire like that, and you live here in Murphy, I mean, would you think about evacuating if there was a fire in Andrews? Not really, because you've got plenty of time. But when those winds picked up, and with the conditions, the drought and the dryness, all it would take is a spark to create that fire, and that's what happened, in my opinion. And I mean, they were experiencing those dry conditions just like we were here, to where it did not take much to set a fire. And our fire marshal, he said it was literally a firestorm of sparks, that just created those fires and created the awful condition that they experienced, that I hope we never have to here. I do think we've been I've told everybody over the last week or so that we've just had God's hand of protection over us here
Absolutely.
recently. Between the tornado on one side of us, flooding, fires all around us, we've been so blessed.
We have. I was just looking at the map of all the disasters around us.
Yes.
We have everything is around us, and we've been very.
Even through the
blessed.
fires that was going on through Macon County and Graham County and Clay County and Fannin County, and even when the fires were raging all around us, we had a few little fires here in Cherokee
Yes.
County, but they were contained very quickly and put out quickly.
Thanks to our
Yeah.
NC and U.S. Forest Service and our local firefighters.
Right.
We were very fortunate.
So we really didn't experience any major fires here in Cherokee County the way it was all around. Of course, we know you had the smoke issues and the breathing problems and things of that nature, but as far as destruction and as far as property being burned, homes burned, those things, we didn't experience anything here. And like you say, just right after that, when the fires started getting in control and the rains came, then you had tornadoes just to the west of us that was tearing things up over there that just skirted the outskirts of the county, and really didn't affect Cherokee County a whole lot other than a few high wind events here in Cherokee County. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that we've just been blessed
We have been.
and was just protected through the whole thing.
You talked about wanting to learn from Gatlinburg. That is something we do with every event we have. We always go back afterwards and talk about, what went right, what didn't go right, and try to improve for if it happens again. And we're already doing that with Gatlinburg, even though it didn't happen to us. I'm part of a committee that we call it a Wildland Fire Committee, and you've got the fire marshal, you've got NC and U.S. Forest Service, and the county manager's office, and cooperative extension. And we've been meeting for years, trying to help communicate communities and how they can be fire safe. And so with all of these fires, we've been able to get more grant money. And we've got, I think Bear Paw is the only fire-wise community in the county. So we're hoping to get the word out. Just take advantage of an opportunity and get the word out on how local residents can make their homes fire safe, because the number one priority is your safety, and we need you to be as fire safe as you can, because it will take a while for us to get there, especially if there are multiple fires or something going on.
I could imagine with Gatlinburg, they were overwhelmed
Yes.
because there were so many in so many different locations, and you only have so many resources to fight fires with.
Correct.
We were discussing before we went on there. I think there were somewhere in the vicinity of around 2,500 to 2,700 homes damaged or destroyed to this point. Probably will be more.
And probably will be more.
Before it's over with. And I think last I heard there was 150, 170 so people that was taken to the hospital due to fire-related injuries. And of course, you got the 14 deaths there, and that's probably going to be more by the time it's over with.
And that's where it really hits me. I do feel bad for the property damage, but when following some of these stories, the man and his son who left and then when they found out that his wife and daughters were part of that, I had to think what that meant to him and his son, having to start over with that kind of loss, and that's where it really just got to me.
I think his story has touched everybody.
Yes.
Yes.
And unfortunately, on this event, according to some of the releases they put out, some of the homes that was in the direct path of the fire burned so hot, and the blaze was so hot to a degree to the point of they're really unsure whether there are any bodies in the home or not. And some of those are going to have to be sifted through the ashes for remains to even determine whether anybody was in there or not. So there's a good possibility at the outcome of this of some of the people that's missing. Obviously, at some point in time will be determined to be deceased, but their bodies may never be recovered, or nothing may never be proven as to where they were or how they died in the fire. So, so there's a lot more stories to come out of this, and it's one of the things that we just try to look at, and like Robin says, try to plan for and look at what happened there, and try to come up with some kind of plan here. You always plan for the worst and hope for the best.
Yes.
So that's what we're doing.
So one of the issues is just communications, and I didn't realize, I didn't think about the visitor population here in Cherokee County. Gatlinburg is hugely visitor. So you mentioned before of the show that they're not subscribed to a code red system. People coming into Gatlinburg, they don't think, well, let me just register in case something happens. And they may not be subscribed to any local media Facebook page or even watch the local TV channels while they're on vacation. So how does communication happen to people that are visiting?
Well, that's what we're trying to find out the best way to get that message out. And we have Doug Clement with NC Cooperative Extension is doing an amazing job with our social media and getting the messages out. So we've tasked him to help us find a way to get the message out to the visitors. And one of the ideas that from this committee is the Board of Realtors, who they might have, in their vast resources, a list of people that rent homes or cabins and get information out to them. How can we do that with them? And just trying to find out.
All right. And I know the cellular network is a very vital tool. And some messages that are pushed to cell phones go out to pretty much every phone within that cell phone coverage area. And I know Amber Alerts go out that way, and some weather alerts will go out that way too. Can that be tapped for evacuation as well?
Yes, and we're looking into that. They, I think through the Gatlinburg thing, they talked about iPaws,
right.
In integrated public announcement.
Yeah, I think
service.
one of the problems was there in Gatlinburg is the question was raised about the National Weather Service and those outlets as far as getting the message out, and there were up until this happened, there were some restrictions as to what they could do, and basically the Weather Service was related to weather type events, and emergencies and disasters was not covered under weather related events.
Right.
If it had been a snowstorm, if it had been a tornado, if it had been something like that, it would have fallen under that to get that message out, to do a PSA through their service. But since it was a man-made fire, it didn't fall under their criteria. So I think some of the changes that Robin's talking about is trying to change some of those rules and restrictions about when you can use it for these disasters and different events, that you can utilize all these resources.
But again, cell service doesn't reach every area in the county, and a lot of that goes out or down during an emergency.
Yeah, like in Athens, the Verizon tower there was taken out with the tornado. So there needs to be redundancy somewhere.
I think something that's been mentioned in recent weeks is the tornado sirens,
Right.
and using those. And we have a couple in the county, but we would need a vast amount of them with our mountains and stuff to be able to reach everywhere, and then those are expensive. But usually in my field, when something like this happens, it opens up grant money,
Right.
and something else we're looking at. But tornado sirens would work also.
I did see on a news conference that those were activated in Gatlinburg. However, the wind was so loud, it was an interrupt. They couldn't hear the sirens, especially inside the buildings.
Right.
So there's really no perfect plan.
No.
I know we monitor iPaws on our emergency alerting system, so a lot of times that EAS system is put in place so that the president can push a button and be on every broadcast channel in the country should there be an emergency.
Right.
Maybe that's something to look into locally as far as being able to push a button and get on all the broadcast channels at once automatically locally.
I think that's something that's viable that everyone should look into. But when you have those type things, you also have to look into, okay, who's going to push the button? Who's in charge of the button?
Right.
When are they going to push the button? So if you make things even as simple as pushing a button, there's still
A lot of
background stuff that has to go with that.
And you talked about how quickly you become overwhelmed
Right.
with our short staff too. I mean,
Right.
and I'm sure it's
Exactly.
same there too. It's there's just a lot of what ifs.
Yeah, and are you going to do that countywide? Are you going to do it region? Are you going to do it statewide? I mean, how does that work? You do all three, So, and when you start talking about changing infrastructures and stuff like that, you've got software issues, you've got money issues, you've got budget issues, you've got all those kind of things that go along with it. There's a lot of technology, a lot of great things out there to do. But it's kind of like when your kids come and talk about all these great things and trips you should take and vacations and all this kind of stuff. The question always comes up: how are you going to pay for it?
Exactly. How are you going to pay for it?
So it's the same thing with this. Anytime you have great ideas and the technology may exist, may be there, who's going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? So it's the thing that makes the world go round, I guess.
All right. What else have we learned from the Gatlinburg situation that we can apply locally?
To make your home safe. Try not to burn right now, because even though we have gotten a lot of rain, and very fortunate for that, we are still in a drought. I think we were downgraded from an exceptional to an extreme drought.
And those words are a little confusing. I would, if I had not seen that chart of that exceptional is above extreme,
I would think they should be flipped.
Yes.
Yes. But conditions are still dry, and especially with wind, that makes it more dry. So be careful when you're dumping your ashes, because I think that was the cause of a couple of our local fires. Also, keep your home free of leaves, your yard, your gutters. Make sure your chimneys are clean, because usually around this time of year we start having a lot of chimney and structure fires. So just locally, keep your home safe, and then make sure you are plugged into all the media outlets. Make sure you are registered for Code Red, which you can go onto the county website, and it takes you just a minute or two to sign up for it.
And do people have to register to be able to get those bulletins?
Through the
Code Red bulletins?
Yes, you have to be
They
signed
have
up.
to sign up.
You have to sign up. When we first were able to get Code Red, we captured all of the public numbers, but that's it. If you have a cell phone or a private number, we do not have that information. And a lot of people, you'd be surprised at how often they change numbers.
Yes.
So, or they're losing the landline and going to a cell phone. We do not have that, so you have to sign up.
And I think we mentioned, it may have been last week when Roger was here, we can see if we just take a look at the phone book, how many landlines we used to have compared to how thin that phone book is now. That shows how many people have gone from landline to cell phone.
And a lot of people like myself, for example, we canceled our landline last month. When you're in good cell range and you use your cell phone about all the time, why do you need to pay long distance, and why do you need to have a landline? So, most people are going to that unless they're in these places where cell phone doesn't work. A lot of people keep their landlines there. And
I remember about 15 years ago, or whenever it was first allowed, I just ported my home phone number to my cell phone number, so I just kept my number, and then I'm no longer bound with a landline there. So that was very beneficial, because it's amazing, the technology. When I went to college, I had this great, wonderful new thing called a bag phone. That was a huge thing you had to carry and plug into an antenna on top
You're
of your car.
dating ourselves, Tim.
Yes. And I was the only one in I think the college at the time that had this brand new bag phone. At least any of my friends, they would come and pay me to use my phone.
Yeah.
So a nice little side business there.
You're talking about communications and things also, we, the state has also set up ways for us to communicate with each other throughout the state. And through the sheriff's office and through the county government, we're using the state Viper system. We do a lot of our sheriff's office business over the state Viper system, in addition to our county radios and things. It's a digital system. It's encrypted. That way, that people are not listening to what you're saying if they're in Scannerland and all those. But more importantly than that is it has the ability to reach across the state. So we can sit here in Cherokee County and talk to people in Raleigh, or talk to people on the coast, or
and I'm not sure Gatlinburg or Tennessee has that capability.
I don't think Tennessee had it.
So,
but here in North Carolina, we do have that capability of talking across the state and getting resources and things. So if for example, if our Fane Tower up here, if the tornado hit it and tore down all of our communication structures and everything up there, we have a couple other backup places, but if let's just say it just went down the ridges from Murphy to Andrews and tore down everything we had, we still have a tower behind the sheriff's office for a Viper system, and that we can get on the Viper system and call in resources from the state or whatever. And even if it tore that tower down, there's places you can get to hit a neighboring Viper tower somewhere else. So there's places that that we can get that information downstate and get request resources and those type of things, and even communicate with each other. And fire, EMS, and law enforcement, we can still communicate with each other through that system.
During all the wildfires that were happening in all the multiple counties, we had a local Viper channel, and all of the EM people could talk to each other during the wildfires, and hey, I need this, or hey, can you bring me this? Because we shared resources, and a lot of our local resources went to support the other counties during the wildfires.
Yeah. So communications is very important. It's important in everything we do in life, even from business to relationships to whatever. You can't operate without communication. So when your communication system goes down, you're kind of dead in the water. And I know we're about to run out of time here, but just to mention that, I mentioned here a while back that we're going to a new dispatch center, and going to be switching over to it pretty soon. We're almost got it complete. When we do, we'll open it up for a public viewing and for people to come in and kind of see what we've done there. But I'm very proud of that, and I'm very proud of the fact that we're upgrading our communications in Cherokee County to where we do have these capabilities and text to 911 and all these different things that we're able to do here now that we couldn't do even years ago.
Something that's been needed. So
it's been needed for a long time. And we can thank Robin for helping facilitate this and getting this together. And even though the dispatch is under the umbrella of the sheriff's office, it is the communications hub that keeps everything going within the county, from fire to EMS to all that. And so the more we can do to upgrade it and get communications going and having backup systems and backup centers and all those kind of things, the better prepared we are in Cherokee County for a disaster, and the better prepared we are to render help and aid to our citizens. So we're constantly, working on those type of things. And just mention real quick also, before we go, is in this planning and some of the things that Robin does in addition to disasters that happen, is we do planning for other events, law enforcement events. Example, if we have an active shooter situation, things of that nature, and we're in the process of working with Robin and working with the school system. And what is the group that's helping us, the consultant group? Do you remember their names?
Specialized Consulting Service.
Yeah, they're actually helping us put together an active shooter drill here in Cherokee County that we'll do in the spring for an active shooter, where we can incorporate our law enforcement and EMS, emergency management, and all these together and do a mock live shooting drill to see how equipped we are to react to things, and see where we operate very well, and see where we're lacking, and see what we need to upgrade and what policies need to be changed and all those type of things, and how we work with each other and the communications that are involved in that and everything. So it's going to be a pretty major ordeal, but it's something that we need to do and plan for those things. And once again, it's things that we plan for that we hope we'll never have to use and never have to utilize. But unfortunately, you can see all around us that mass shootings and mass attacks and bombings and things of that nature has become part of our society and has become almost a normal thing. And so we'd be remiss if we didn't train for those things and be prepared for those things when they happen. So,
and finding out what works and doesn't work, we want to do that in a non-emergency setting versus learning as we go during an emergency. So very, very fortunate to have the sheriff's office and the schools be willing to make yourself vulnerable to, lessons learned. People don't want to make mistakes. They don't want to look bad. But again, this is the time to learn and know what to do and what we need to improve on.
And the one things we try to make sure our officers understand, and the ones involved in EMS and fire and everybody else that's involved in this, is that we know going into this that we will make mistakes. We know going into it that we'll do things we shouldn't have done. We know going into this that we could have done things better before we ever started. But that's the whole purpose of it. The whole purpose of it is not to try to go in there with our chest stuck out and show how perfect we are. But the point is to go in to show where we need to work on,
Right.
what we need to do to make things better. In the event that if we practice a school shooting and we go in and we try to distract somebody and get 2 or 3 medics killed doing that, we would rather do that in a mock situation
Right.
as to do it in a real life situation. So those are all things that we're training for, to try to learn for, and how to work together on these things. Anytime an event like that happens, Robin will tell you, on the best day, with everything going the best it can, it's chaos.
Yes, yes. Yes.
And so it's organized chaos. And so we're just trying to work together to understand that in a real event, how we can even communicate better, how we can even just organize better and plan better, much less the actual situation that's going on. So I think we're real fortunate to have county leaders and to have people who are willing to go out and do these things and to train and take the time.
And that work well together.
Yeah. And I think Robin would agree with me on this. I don't know of anybody right now that I felt like I couldn't work with because of their egos in the way or anything.
agree.
I think that everybody is there for the right reason and trying to do the right thing. And so that's what we're here for. Just try to make our community better, try to make the place safer, and just try to see what we can do to make our community a better place.
And from a personal standpoint, I just want to make sure that all of our listeners know how to get all their local broadcast channels, not just ours, because we can have failures too.
Right.
In the time emergency, both your offices communicate with all the radio stations and TV here in our local area. So should there be a failure on one, find backups. Make sure that you know how to get to your local communications outlet, whether it be us, WCVP, WCNG, local TV4. The folks that are going to get that word out, and Code Red. So we have Code Red as a means of communication, your local broadcast stations, and where are other ways that folks, should they need
Social
something?
media.
Social media.
So you've got NC Cooperative Extension, Sheriff's Office has
Right.
a page, my office has a page, so Public Health has a page.
One thing I do want to mention too, because a lot of people don't realize this. I know we have people through cable and other things depend on 13 WLOS in Asheville for their news because it's North Carolina station, and 13 WLOS is involved out here as far as reporting news and as far as getting those information things out. But a lot of people don't realize we're actually in the Chattanooga viewing district,
Right.
And so Channel 9 out of Chattanooga, 12 and 3, and 61, Fox 61 out of Chattanooga. A lot of those Chattanooga stations is a great place to get resources, because in the event of anything going on, the Chattanooga TV outlets are the ones that's going to be mainly out here reporting on things. And like I say, I'm not saying not to listen to Asheville, because Asheville will too, but we are in the Chattanooga viewing district.
We are in a unique location.
We are.
It's
like, oh brother, we're out there. We're in a geographical oddity.
And we depend on advertising agencies for national advertising, and a lot of the advertising agencies don't know who we're covering, because we have listeners in other counties that are in different markets. And even with the National Weather Service, Cherokee and Clay are part of the Morristown.
Right.
All of our North Georgia counties are in the Peachtree City, and then Graham County and Macon County, those are all Greenville, Spartanburg.
Right.
So our listening area is comprised of 3 different National Weather Services who act at different times, publishing warnings.
Right.
And we get a lot of feedback. Well, what about Cherokee County? Well, that's a different weather service that issues those bulletins.
Like we're the redheaded stepchild.
Yeah. Sometimes we feel that way, don't we?
But yeah, we appreciate all the communication and all the good work that you guys do. And anytime there's an emergency, make sure to know where to get information. And you do a great job communicating. Sometimes I feel like I'm bugging you when I text you or
Ever.
call you during an emergency.
I do want to say this, though, and I think Robin would agree with me. I do want to thank WKRK for your page and the information that you put out there.
You do an amazing job.
Tim has never failed. Anytime I've sent
Exactly
him
right.
anything going on in the county, I've sent him a message say, hey, could you put this out?
Yes.
Could you get this going? He's always there, to get information out there very
Thank
quickly
you.
to things that are happening.
Yes.
So we'd like to thank WKRK.
Yes.
For that.
One thing I noticed about Facebook, and it grew way too fast, and it grew way too fast when we had the tornado.
Right.
And that's where I know that there are points of failure. We don't have the resources to have a completely separate studio site and a completely separate tower site. So when the tornado happened, it rolled through our studio and between there and the tower site. So all of our communication between studio and tower, and the power was out in that area until it was. So there was a block of time that we were unable to broadcast, but we took to Facebook and were able to communicate. It was overwhelming
Right.
because I could not keep track of those thousands of notifications that kept coming up. But
Right.
that's one of our backups for folks that may be listening that have never been on Facebook. Just take a look at it. We can
Right.
communicate. There's so much stuff on our page that we can't put on the radio because there's just not enough time to do that. But it's a great backup location for us because I can be on my cell phone at my house with an important bulletin if we're off the air. So.
Right.
So we appreciate that, and we appreciate all the contributions to our page too, because it's keeping the public safe and informed.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that. They think that you're sitting here at your microphone just waiting on us to send you a call down to the station to tell you to put something out. But a lot of times it's just a text message. I'll shoot him a text message on his cell phone and say, hey, this is going on. We got this happening. Here's a description we're looking for, whatever. Could you put this out? And generally, if I can get a break in the next 2 or 3 minutes, I'll look, and he's already got it out and out there. So it's very important. It's a very good service that WKRK does to help us get that information out.
We appreciate you guys. And Robin, you have to come again soon and
That
be a
wasn't
part of
too
the show.
painful, was it?
Not
Thank you
painful
for
at
inviting
all.
me.
We'll do it again real soon. Sheriff, thank you as
Thank you.
always. We appreciate you. And we'll be back next week, same time, same place, right here on WKRK 105.5 FM, 1320 AM, cable TV channel 25, and worldwide at country.am.